Here's Jordan Joe Hollabaugh.
3.1. She's in the money.
She was about as fast as she could have been on that
one. 2.9 seconds. And now she is number one.
You are officially in the loop. Okay, welcome to In the Loop podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Joe Hollabaugh, and we are here today with one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. Her name is Linsay Rosser-Sumpter. We go way back to Colorado days and all the things. She's been a many-time podcast guest, and we're going to talk about some pretty cool stuff today. Linsay, thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me. Obviously I have just a warm spot in my heart for you. And I've watched you just evolve into the amazing leader that you are in the industry now. And to be part of your podcast so many times, it just makes me so happy. Thank you.
It brings our hearts joy. And the other thing that brings our hearts joy is this is the second time doing this podcast. If you tried to, tried to watch it the first time, we're doing it again because my technology failed, as sometimes it does. And so we're getting to do this a second time. So it's going to be a better podcast than the first time anyway.
Well, I don't know. It's pretty fun when we get to be in the same room because we kind of feed off of each other's energy. But, we've known each other for so long, spent countless hours in the truck together. So I think we'll be okay.
We'll be okay. We did record this the first time at the Fort Worth Stockyards, and now we're here doing it live on StreamYard, a podcast platform. But anyway, we're going to make it work, make the best of it. And many hours in the truck we spent together. You also taught me how to play the guitar. That's cool. I need to probably practice that again. Tell us what else Linsay Rosser-Sumpter has going on in her life.
There's a few irons in the fire. Really kind of my number one priority is obviously the boys. Weston is 11, almost going to be 12. He is officially bigger than you and has been for a while now. And then Lyndon is 9, and he has decided that hockey is his new favorite pastime. So I don't know anything about hockey. I'm a California cowgirl, and we don't even freeze it in the winter. So we're learning this new hockey adventure, and basketball is getting ready to start. So a lot of fun things with the boys and homework every night and all of that fun stuff. And then still with Otero College, on the teacher side instead of coaching side, and teaching agriculture business and a lot into web utilization and really making sure social media platforms are where they need to be for some of these students and building their businesses. So that's fun. And then I don't know if you saw, but on Tuesday, we released that Women's Rodeo Championship is officially now Premier Women's Rodeo. And that is super exciting. It has been kind of in my pocket for the last couple of months, and it's been really hard because you wanted to share the news with everybody, but it's just a new chapter, and it's a great adventure for women in the industry. Same as what we've always been before, an inclusive environment for all female rodeo athletes. But most importantly, we have the machine behind us 100%. The professional bull riders took over full operations of Women's Rodeo in August. And so with that came a few different changes. And TKO, who is the owner of WWE and UFC, owns the PWR now. So with that, they kind of looked at the big picture of what we were doing and what our visions and goals were. And they really wanted to unify the brand across the board with PBR and now PWR, and showcase the power of the cowgirl athletes and the power of the women in the industry. And so when you see PWR, don't be alarmed. Everything is okay. We are just having a turning of the page and a new chapter for women in rodeo.
Well, and first and foremost, I am very thankful for this name change because I got tongue-tied all the time, and I would have a hint of dyslexia as well, so I might set it backwards, like WC of the R of the A of the whatever. Mm-hmm. So Women's Rodeo World Championships evolving into Premier Women's Rodeo and Power. I mean, you can go alongside of that any day, anyhow, and so that's exciting. And, I know change is hard in the rodeo industry, right? We're all like, once we have our set ways, we like to stick to it. But this change is a change that I think, like you said, is a new chapter. And I'm really excited to see all the things that this brings. But you've been a cowgirl your whole entire life from day one. I think one of my fondest moments of you that I was in awe as an 18-year-old girl, I'm like, here is this blonde headed, you almost are 6 foot, tall blonde, 6 foot, wears red lipstick. She thinks she's hot stuff, which she is. You showed me a video of you coming out of a cowboy boot on a paint horse, holding an American flag. I'm like, this girl is thebomb.com, and she's from California, and she is just all these things. But you've always been a cowgirl your whole entire life. And you and your co-partner, Sammy Jo Smith, are the foundation of what is now Power, Premier Women's Rodeo. What is your guys' why? I know I say your guys because you guys are a team. And I know you guys as a team. And so I feel like Sammy Jo would be okay with you just this one time to answer this question for her. But what's your why behind Premier Women's Rodeo and Power, and why you do what you do?
Absolutely. When I said yes to being the commissioner, I kind of took myself out of the running to compete, because I never felt like it was right for me to be managing this, organization and then still competing for a prize of $750,000. It just didn't feel right to me. So when I took myself out, it was definitely something I had to consider, because even now I'm not done, right? I'm not done competing. I still go to the circuit rodeos. I still go to as many jackpots as I can. Now I head for my son as much as I can. And so competing is still obviously a huge part of me, but going back to why is I have been, like you said, on every side of this industry, from secretarying to timing to production to the pageantry of presenting the American flag and contestant. And so I've seen the evolution of the sport, and I've seen how it hasn't progressed fast enough. And I've seen that women were underserved in the industry. If you weren't a barrel racer, you either had to figure out how to be a jackpot team roper, or you were done and you had to go be a mom and get a job, and you could compete and train horses on the side and maybe go to some amateur rodeos in the summer, and that was it. And that's okay. And it's been okay, but it's not okay now to sit back and see all of the opportunities that were happening and not be part of it. And so when I say that, we can look at the evolution of breakaway, and you and I have been in the forefront of it. When Cheyenne first added breakaway, it was non-sanctioned. It was an open breakaway jackpot, and you and I both made the short round. You won it. And it was something that I would have never dreamed of. I never thought when we were playing rodeo, roping the dummy, I was heading at Cheyenne. I was never breakaway roping at Cheyenne. And just to see how much the crowd appreciated and enjoyed it. And that's what Gary McKinney and Sean Gleason of the PBR saw when Jackie Crawford won $50,000 at Chicago. Mm-hmm. And it made me cry. It made probably a lot of people cry, because it was never something that we ever thought was a chance. And that's the same thing when you look at all of breakaway. And now it's hard for me to sit back and not say, listen, we have got to do better. You can't invite them to the table, them meaning breakaway ropers to the table, and offer them a peanut butter Uncrustable and jelly sandwich while everybody else is eating steak. The go rounds pay $6,000 and the average pays $11,000. When we look at the go rounds for the NFR on all the other events is $32,000. The number one girl that won the most money at the breakaway roping NFR last year only won 30. I think it was like 30, right at 30,000, less than what you can win in one go round in one night. And everybody should be celebrating this. And I'm like, hold on, we have to do better by the women. And I think that was part of my why, is that I don't want my son's daughters to know what it felt like to not have the opportunity to work your tail off, get really good at a sport, train horses, grind it out the same as everyone else in this industry does. Put the money in the gas tank, put the money in the axles, put the money in the tires. I mean, you name it, the girls are doing it too, and then not have the same opportunity. And so if I have to be the guy that says it, and I say the guy, then I'll be the guy that says it. It's not something that we should just dismiss as, okay, well, they had to pay their dues. I feel like not being included for 50 years is a pretty good due pay on all of these things that are happening with women in the industry. So when you ask what Sammy Joe and I's why is, it's because we want the sport to be better and we want to give back to the sport. I personally want to give back to the sport that's given my family so much, but I want it to be this place that you'll never know what it feels like to not make a living with a rope. You can make a living with a barrel horse. You can make a living doing a lot of different things, but women never really had a chance to make a living with a rope. And I'm pretty passionate about kind of being that advocacy to make the platform equal. I mean, really, and that's the whole thing about PWR is it's an inclusive environment for all female rodeo athletes. It doesn't matter if you're a mom and you can't travel 9 months out of the year, or you are a mom and you can, or you are a mom and you can't. If you only go to those few rodeos or jackpots a year, you can nominate those rodeos and get to a chance to be in front of thousands of people at AT&T Stadium, hold up your big check and be celebrated, and walk across the stage in your ball gown and be celebrated. And that's the best part about PWR and continuing this inclusive environment for all female rodeo athletes, not just the elite, but all of us that are in the middle and all of us that are maybe in the beginning or the end of our careers. So
to me, being a part of this event since it started in 2020 and watching it evolve and watching the passion both you and Sammy Jo have put in, I'm just going to take us for a little mini walkthrough of what this event week looks like. We start out with a back number gala that, like you said, gala, not sure how you say it. It's a really sophisticated word. Either one. I love it.
I like them both. Just say
I like
it.
them both. I get to put a dress on and I sometimes shave my legs. And I also get a spray tan, do my hair and my nails. So we start out with that. And you see girls, like, honestly, you don't recognize them because we don't ever see them without a cowgirl hat on. And some of the ladies come up, glammed out. It is so fun to see. And over 200 contestants get to walk across that stage, get their back number. And that's one thing I think we don't do enough in our sport as women is celebrate the wins and celebrate, like, I made it here. I got here. I qualified, no matter which avenue you qualified through. So that's where we start out. We do the back number ceremony and everybody gets to walk across that stage. Then we start the week off. Well, let me back up. We start the week off with Cowgirl Gathering, last chance qualifiers for every event. And then we do the back number ceremony. Then we have a whole full week of roping. It's going to be performances this year at Fort Worth Coliseum, at Northside, at Stockyards. It's a phenomenal experience. There is more cowgirls walking around Fort Worth that week than ever. And at the end of the rainbow, we get to be celebrated alongside of the biggest major sporting event, PBR. I got to watch last year, which I hate that I watched, but I got to watch. And I sat alongside of the WNBA, two WNBA basketball players and explained rodeo to them. And just watching girls win $60,000 for an event championship, all around champion, Martha Angeloni, we know that this platform really did set her up for success in her career. It's changed so many women's lives. It's just an event that I've watched you and Sammy Jo piece by piece add something to every year, and it's pretty special.
Yeah, and that's our biggest goal is to just make everyone feel celebrated and everyone feel like they have a spot at the table with us. And that's important. And it's important to think about even the goat tires. They were, when college rodeo was over, goat tying was over, and we brought goat tying back. And now goat tying is going to be in our performances. And we have a couple little tricks up our sleeves for our performances on May the 14th and 15th. And I can't really say this now, but if you know my background, I really like bucking horses and bucking bulls. But
rough stock. Oh, yeah.
So just some fun things like that industry-wide has dismissed. And we don't want that. We want everyone to feel like they have a place at the table with us. And that is so important. And, like you said, when we brought in Together, which is Everybody Watches Women's Sports, and if you know anything about them, it was built by WNBA players. They were so happy to partner, and they're like, hold on, women rodeo athletes, they they do this, like women do this. And so when we had that conversation with them, they were so excited about it and so excited to be part of that adventure at AT&T Stadium, and continue to put us on a platform amongst Caitlin Clark. Angel Reese just bought into Together, and she's one of their new owners. And she is a huge powerhouse in the WNBA, and she's part of that organization. And they appreciate and love women's rodeo. I mean, that's just cool. When you think about this turning of the page with Premier Women's Rodeo, that is what I want everybody to take notice of, is we want to tell the stories of the rodeo cowgirls that are grinding it out day in, day out, whether you are on the road or you are home and you're on the juggle, right? You're in the mom juggle, or you're in the career juggle, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get your horses rode when the time changes and it's dark by the time you get off of work, and you have to, plug in a spotlight just so you could lope circles to keep your horse warm, keep your horse exercised all winter. Just things like that to tell the story. We've always been so committed to our cowgirls, and we still are, but now we want to dig into committing to the fans and telling our stories so that millions of people can appreciate us, not just our industry.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to. One of the most is just getting those stories told, and I think you guys have done a great job of just telling those stories. Like last year, we got to watch Charmaine Holden win 25,000 in AT&T, and she went from being a limited barrel racer to having that opportunity because of Women's Rodeo World Championships, now PWR. And so just several of those stories, Quayle Probst roping against Josie Connor for $60,000. I mean, in the team roping, it was phenomenal too. And then, like you said, goat tying now, and maybe rough stock. We don't know. But it's great, these storylines that have been told that potentially we would have never heard of. And, for me too, as I look at these stats, thank you, Sammy Jo Smith, we have $4.5 million over that has been paid out since 2020. Mm-hmm. $4.5 million to women only.
Women only. And that is our number one, is that you must be born female. And that is our number one ground rule when it comes into our rules, which, not that we don't appreciate men running barrels or men in the industry. It's just that we wanted to make sure that we had that platform, and that it was, like I said, that place that someone like Charmaine, who's a traditionally 40 barrel racer. I mean, that's what the limited classification is. It's those 40 barrel racers that don't go to rodeos, don't care about the one run fastest time wins. They would rather go to a barrel race and have a 40 chance that if your horse maybe stumbles or maybe takes a step by the first barrel, that they still have a chance to win money. And that's the limited classification in the barrel race. Limited in the breakaway is those young girls or those older ladies that, haven't had a pro card in 5 years, and they don't really go to their amateur finals. They just kind of ease around and go rope calves in that 3.5, 4 second, time frame. And that's the limited classification. Those ladies have a chance to go win 60,000. And then the challengers, like that true cowgirl who just doesn't kind of go on the road, doesn't, have the opportunity to compete quite as much. And then the pros. And so when you look at this tiering system and the classifications, it really digs deep into all of the different elements that play into female rodeo athletes. And so I hate to keep saying the word inclusive, but I don't know how else to say it. There's an avenue for everybody who has ever felt like the sport has let them down, and or maybe didn't think that they had a chance to be on a stage like that. And there is a chance for you to have a place here at PWR and at our championships in Fort Worth.
And I think for me too, it's all of our seasons and stories look different in the choices that we make. And so knowing that whatever your season or story may bring as a woman competitor, it's there for you. Whether you're pro rodeoing full time, or like you said, maybe you haven't picked a rope up in a year and you're like, I want to go to the PWR in May. Like I had a friend call me the other day that saw the release of PWR and the new name. And she's like, okay, wait, what is this? And I'm like, it's the same thing. It's just new name, but it's going to be bigger and better every year. And she's like, okay, how do I get there? And so that was another thing for me that's huge at what you guys do. There's so many different avenues to get to Fort Worth in May. So break that down for us from the qualifier events and the partners that you have that help keep this alive all year long in all disciplines to how you can make it to Fort Worth no matter what.
Absolutely. So we utilize the virtual rodeo qualifier, which is the VRQ. If you need to look it up, it's the vrqapp.com. You can go in there and kind of play around and look at it. But really think about it as you can go to any event that allows the results to be shared, and it allows the VRQ to be able to see what you've done, the paid places, and they manipulate it into points depending on the size of the event. Okay. So any event can be nominated. If it's not on the list about 10 days before or a week before, you can email the team, they'll add it. If not, you can app add that day, that minute that you're trying to do it, you can add it right then. So you can, I'm talking Fowler Roping Club. I'm talking anything that you could potentially go to is an event that could be nominated, as long as we have the results and we can see everything, it's verifiable that the event actually happened, that there's results, that there's a secretary, all the above, right? We also have a chance to work with the best producers in the country, the absolute best. When I say that, I mean these producers that we work with, we are so lucky, and they have said yes to being qualifier series for us. And what that means is that they are a qualifier series that the highest placing nominated cowgirl, so you must nominate those events, the highest placing nominated cowgirl gets a straight shot straight into Premier Women's Rodeo Championship. Okay, so a straight shot right into the finals. Then if you go on the premierwomensrodeo.com, you can see that we have leaderboards, and that's leaderboards in every single classification, in pro, challenger, and limited. And we will take the top 20 on the leaderboard for all of those classifications. You can accumulate points every week if you're going to events every week, all winter, all summer, all spring, whatever you're going to, you can nominate those events and accumulate points. College rodeos count. In the goat tying, they can nominate the 10 college rodeos and then any open goat tying jackpots. If you're a high school goat tire, you can nominate your state finals, the national high school finals, and those major kind of limited, the best of the best, WCJR, those major limited goat tyings. The high school girls can nominate those. The college girls can nominate the 10. So we picked 10 high school events and 10 college rodeos. And then you can nominate those and then open goat tying jackpots. So really you can nominate anything that you're competing at. Make sure that we have verifiable results. You'll accumulate points, be in the top 20 in the leaderboard in any classification, in any discipline, and or win a qualifier series spot at our qualifier series. And all of those are on the website. All the disciplines, we have great partnerships with NBHA, with all of Chris Neal's events and Kimes $1 Million Breakaway. It's just kind of a little breakaway roping that's about to happen in a couple weeks, right? We have a partnership with Kimes. We have a partnership with Chris Neal. We have a partnership with NBHA. Darren Peterson with all of his amazing events. Like you said, Cowgirl Gathering. There's so many great events that we have partnerships with. And so we're so thankful for all of those producers who allow us to be part of their event. But then there's, like you said, a lot of different opportunities. But really, any event that you go to that we can get results, you can accumulate points on the leaderboard.
And I think too, just knowing, which, we're women of strategy in any way you put it. And so at first, I think it maybe sounds a little overwhelming. But the best news is Sammy Jo, yourself, or anybody else on the team has always been there to break it down and explain it. And
Absolutely.
That is hands down for anybody, including myself, as I pro rodeo all the time. And I feel like I know a lot of these events. I'm calling you guys all the time, like, hey, what's going on? And so I don't think the best thing is like ask the questions, get the answers. But there's so many different avenues. For instance, like the Kimes Ranch, I qualified through the semifinals through the VRQ and just nominating women's rodeo events. And this is the first year for me to get to the PWR I actually it used to be called a win and you're in. Not sure what they're called now.
Right.
But I
It's
did
a
win
qualifier series now. Yeah.
in a qualifier series this year. And so I am automatically seeded, like you said, into the semifinals. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, okay, great. This is a new avenue for me. Martha Angeloni and I are always, she obviously is a many time
She's the
champion.
queen of strategy.
She's the queen of
Queen of
strategy.
strategy.
And so I'm like, all right, Emmett, what's our strategy here? How else are we going to go about
Yeah.
it? So that's what I think is fun too amongst competitors and your
Mhm.
fellow athletes and compete with. You're like, okay, what's your strategy? How do you get to it? And how do you go about it?
Well, I think that what you need to do is just kind of think about that in the pro and the challenger, once you get to women's rodeo championship, there's no entry fees. The limited is different because it's a jackpot. Um, it's a jackpot platform. Once we get to the finals, it's a little bit different because it's a 2D breakaway roping and it's a 4D breakaway or barrel racing jackpot. So the limited classification is a little different. It's more of that jackpot mindset, jackpot orientated. So when you get qualified in the top 20 in the leaderboard in the pro and the challenger classification, there is no entry fees. So how much are you willing to put up to have $183,000 added rodeo?
A lot.
Right? Like we know about Houston, we know about Kimes, we know about all of these rodeos that add a lot of money. So when we think about that, like you just need to budget out where you're going to allocate your nomination money to and how much you're willing to put up to get there.
Yeah.
Right? That's all dependent upon your own personal budget and how that works. If I'm strategizing my own personal, guidelines to get to women's rodeo championships, I'm going to look at places or competitions that allow me to have multiple chances at points and money. So those multiple round events, like a jackpot that is going to pay in multiple rounds and the average. My easiest way to talk about it is a college rodeo, to be honest, because they have a long round, a short round, and an average. Those rodeos like that allow them to get round 1 points, round 2, which would be the short round points, and the average and the aggregate points. So those are great opportunities to accumulate anywhere from 200 to 300 points just in those limited nominations that are coming out of those college rodeos. So really just take a kind of a strategic plan of if the 3-4 250 jackpot down the road pays a couple in the rounds and a couple in the average, that might be a good one to get on and make sure it's nominated because you have a chance in round 1, round 2, the short round, the final round and the aggregate to get points. So if you're thinking barrel racing, think your finals or maybe just a jackpot that your horse works really well. The ground there, he that's his pin. He loves it. Like we talked about Charmaine, her horse loves Northside. So I think that'd be a great one for her to nominate. But I think you just have to take kind of a step back and figure out what your budget is and how much you're willing to put up to try to get there. If you don't get in on that qualifier series route where you're kind of winning in, those are great opportunities. They have a lot of points at them. And the cowgirls can get a straight shot right in there. But if you don't get in that way, then you can get in through going to those events that you're already going to and really just hone in on those ones that have multiple rounds.
As you're saying this, I'm picturing like a map and it's like literally all the ways you can get to Fort Worth in May. And it's just like spider web of opportunities. And that's what I think is the most exciting for me as women in overall branch, because for me, obviously I'm going to be a diehard rodeo, breakaway roper, you name it. I'm always going to be involved in it. So I'm like,
well, I'll just give you a little heads up, nominate Fort Worth, nominate San Antonio, and nominate Houston. Those ones you need to nominate, especially because you're only competing against a limited amount of girls, for those points right there. So,
and I think strategy comes into play, but I'll always be there. So even when I'm 75 strapping myself in and still roping, I will be at the PWR event. So,
well, you have a role model of still competing at a later era in her life as your mother, because she is definitely one of our major players when it comes to to the PWR and still competing. So
Yeah. And, that's just my mom. She is somebody that is always going to rope. That brings her joy. And she's at these events no matter what. And she's at a very mature age. And she'll always rope. When she can't rope
oh,
anymore, she'll be underground. But
she
it's,
ropes more than all of us,
she
guaranteed.
ropes more than all of us, guaranteed. And ask my dad if you don't believe it. But I think that's pretty neat. And, one of the things, again, the statistician Sammy Joe has here is 2.4 million viewers on CBS Sports.
Yes.
2.4 million people watched.
Which is
now
part of the reason why Sean Gleason is so passionate about this. Not only does he have a daughter that ropes and competes with us, but he also saw those numbers, 2.4 million views on CBS network TV. Now, we're not talking CBS Sports. We're talking network. We're talking if you don't have cable, you don't have YouTube TV, you don't have Hulu, Hobo, Fire Stick, any of the things, and you just turn a TV on and it has a regular old, we used to call it rabbit ears antenna, you could get CBS and kind of those network televisions. And that was what it showed us, in 2021, that 2.4 million people viewed, because we had viewership numbers of that. And it is the largest rodeo that has ever been viewed on network television as of right now. Now, bull riding numbers are a little bit different, but a true rodeo, that is the largest numbers that they've ever seen. And it just showed that people are interested, right? They're like, hold up. These are not like chewing tobacco, Marlboro men, like pulling. These are beautiful women competing for a lot of money on beautiful horses, doing amazing things. And that is what kind of sparked this love for the industry, for PBR and for TKO to come in and say, like, we need to dig into this just a little bit more and really see where that number is huge. I mean, huge. I can't push enough that how big that number is for the industry and for women. And that's really what they're building off of when they see the amount of growth that we could potentially have with women in rodeo.
And I think the growth that we're going to see, especially with the PBR as a powerhouse, right alongside of the PWR, telling those stories, I think that is going to be the sweet part of the spot. And so that's one thing I'm really looking forward to. Another thing I'm looking forward to is we are starting 15 Days of Breakaway on Monday. So if you're listening to this and you haven't started listening to 15 Days of Breakaway, it starts Monday. Be ready. But the WRWC, which is now Power, Premier Women's Rodeo, has always been a huge part of In the Loop podcast, especially 15 Days of Breakaway. We listen to the top 15 girls go through their year each and every year, and it's become tradition. And you guys are a part of that tradition. And so last year, we did a Fancies Burning Questions segment. This year, because of Power, we were also excited about it, and I had to keep the cat in the bag too until this came out. But we were also excited about it. We did Power questions. We did 3 Power questions. So before we go, I'm going to ask you these questions that each of the top 15 girls are going to get asked through the 15 Days of Breakaway coming up.
Yes.
But I want you to give me a little bit of background on where you came up with these questions and why we're asking them.
Well, really, we really want to dig into the athletic side of what the Cowgirls are doing. And we really wanted to know the backstory behind it. We know that Kelsey Domer was a college basketball player. We know that Ricky Angesser, she was a college basketball player. We know that there's so many different stories behind these female athletes, behind the scenes of what they did before they were in the arena, or maybe simultaneously. And with our new, ownership of the Professional Bull Riders, they were always part of our history and they were always part of our story. They were co-producers in the entire thing, starting from the beginning in 2020. So they're not new to us. They know exactly what women's is, but really digging into the backside of what TKO is, which is the owners of the Professional Bull Riders. They also own the UFC, and which is also, kind of a fun, just sporting event in its own right with the UFC and the Ultimate Fighting. But they also own WWE, which is wrestling, the world, wrestling entertainment side of TKO. And so we thought it would be really fun to kind of dig into that alter personality that cowgirls can have as superheroes or as, these fighters or athletes. And so we thought it would be really fun to kind of dig into that side of the cowgirls.
Well, and it was fun. And it was really fun to see the girls' answers and hear the girls' answers. Some of them were like really on board with it. Some of them were acting as though they don't have a fighter person, no name, but they do. So now
No, the cowgirls are fighters, big time.
Every one of them. So here are our power questions that we're going to ask each top 15 girls. Linsay, I'm going to ask them to you, and I'm excited to hear your answers. Question number 1. Every cowgirl has a fighter in her.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a fighter name, what would it be and why?
Well, I have said this on numerous occasions that if UFC would have been a thing when I was younger, I probably would have dug deep into that boxing and taekwondo and wrestling. And I might have give Ronda Rousey a run for her money, but now I definitely wouldn't. I would have loved to have, really started boxing. And I still look at boxing as like something that would be amazing to kind of dig and get into. I think that my fighter name would probably just have to be Lindsay Lee, just because that's like, it's kind of me, and kind of like you're Jordan Joe. I would be Lindsay Lee in my fighter name. But yeah, I think being a UFC fighter would be, the wrestling part, there's theatrics behind it and like some of that, but I really kind of like the hardcoreness of UFC.
I can say I've seen that behind the scenes, and I will definitely come and find Lindsay Lee if I ever needed anything.
Yes.
On the UFC Avenue in the arena. So that's cool. Yeah. Okay. Number 2, if ESPN was going to call you tomorrow and draft you into any sport, what would it be and why?
I wish I could say, because I am very tall, that it would be basketball, but I don't think that it would be basketball because I fouled out of every single game. It goes back to my UFC that I really think I would have been a good fighter. So basketball is definitely out. I think that women's rugby is amazing, and I think it's super cool. Goes back to the aggressiveness that I potentially might possess. But yeah, I think that I would appreciate women's rugby in my professional career.
And then following that, anger management. Yes. Okay. That would be. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. No, rugby. Rugby is such an aggressive sport, and I could see you being the leader and the captain of that team.
Yes.
Okay. If there was going to be any actress play you in your own movie, they're like, "Hey, Lindsay, we're going to make a movie about you." Who's it going to be?
That's a hard one because there's 2 sides of me. I think that if I was like going on this like beautiful actress, I would probably say like Charlize Theron. But then the other part of me is like, listen, I need somebody who's funny and who's a comedian. So I think Leanne Morgan, she's kind of the Southern, like she always talks about like her kids and her husband, and like, yeah, she's doing some stuff with Reba now and her show. And I think that Leanne Morgan or Charlize Theron would be who would play me, but it would be that would be Charlize Theron when she was like kind of a little bit homelier looking, like in The Animal or whatever movie that was, where she was unfortunate looking. Cause that's generally, if I don't have makeup, my hair's like we talked about earlier, we're always in a ball cap or a cowboy hat and hair's in a bun and kind of not a lot of makeup going and all of that good stuff. So it might be a little unfortunate sometimes, but I think Leanne would do a great job because she would be hilarious and she would have good little one-liners to talk about some of the funny stuff that we do. But I have to ask you now, because it's only fair if you ask my fighter name that I ask your fighter name. And what would your fighter name be, Jordan?
So I'm really glad we screwed up this first podcast because it kind of caught me off guard when you asked me the first time. And my answer was not very good. But now I'm prepared. And so you did gift me with a fighter name, the Spider Monkey.
The Spider Monkey. Only because I have been around Jordan for so long that I really think that you would be the guy that like comes and like goes up to the ring and like throws the chair in so that somebody could like do that. You would be that guy.
Or the water boy. Either one. I mean, it'd be fun.
I think it would be awesome.
But I'm
So
going to stick with Spider Monkey as my fighter name. Yeah.
you're the spider monkey. I can see it.
Yeah.
And if ESPN were to call you and draft you to do any other sport besides professional breakaway roper and roper, what would that be?
So I would say, at first I said basketball because I did play basketball and I loved it. My mom was a college basketball player, so I had some ability in my genetics. Not sure I really capitalized on it, but I did play in high school. But I will say I swam. I was on the swimming team in high school, and I won like a lot of gold medals in that. And so I'm like, why wouldn't I be a swim girl? I mean, I loved it. Yes, I absolutely loved swimming.
Good.
So I would be a swimmer.
A swimmer.
Yeah.
I would blind people with my very whiteness. I would be the swimmer that had the whole onesie on that went all the way to your ankles, like all the way up to here. I would be that swimmer because if I didn't, they would be like, oh, the light from her legs is so bright. That would be me as a swimmer. That would be true. That would definitely be a thing for me.
I pictured that. Thank you. Okay, cool.
You're welcome. Okay, and last one. If you were to have anybody play you in a movie and tell your story and be Jordan Joe in a movie, who would it be?
Well, you said Rachel McAdams.
I did say Rachel McAdams.
I'm not opposed to that. I like that. But I would say Reese Witherspoon because I love it when in Sweet Home Alabama, and she's like, so I can kiss you anytime I want. Because I kind of have that vibe, like, don't tell me what I'm going to do. So that's what I would.
You're going Hallmark. I'm over here going like,
seriously, you're like the savage, like
comedian or like, yeah.
I'm over here holding my cat.
Project. I'm over here all sad, and you're like, Hallmark original, woo!
Yeah, like holding my cat and knitting a sweater, and you're over here like, what's that, Chucky?
No, oh my gosh, I don't do scary movies. That is one thing I do not do. It is not in the wheelhouse. I look away when it's scary movies like commercials. I hate it. I'm just like, it's not a thing.
Sleep good tonight.
I hate scary movies. No, Chucky, stop it. Stop it. It's not okay.
They're not better the second time, which we did have a ball the first time. And I just want to say, first and foremost, anybody who doesn't know, Linsay is a huge part of why we even get to do In the Loop podcast, because she encouraged me in the Forefront Foundation to start telling some of these stories of these ladies. So I have to give a big shout out and a thank you to you, Linz, because you're the reason why we're here on episode 250 and starting our 5th annual 15 Days of Breakaway. I'm
proud of you. You're killing it. From the girl I tried to recruit to be on my rodeo team to being a powerhouse in the industry, I'm on your team 100%, your number one fan. So proud of you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for coming on In the Loop podcast. This is always fun. I can't wait for the PWR to come out and all the new seasons that we have. So thankful for everybody who came before them and all the amazing things that they've done for women in the sport. Can't wait to see where it goes. And the new name. I love it. Power. So
yes, Power, PWR. And it just follows suit with PBR. And it, like you said, it takes us out of that W kind of starting that can be confusing because there's the ranch and there's the women's and there's all of that. So yeah, PWR, here we go.
Here we go. And y'all make sure and stay tuned for all 15 Days of Breakaway. There are PWR questions. They're towards the end of each episode, so you're not going to want to miss them because they are pretty funny and they caught the girls off guard. So it's pretty neat to see the top 15 and their fighter names. Some of them are really cool. Some of them are, but no, it was a good time. But Linsay, thank you so much for joining us today on In the Loop. Again, can't wait to see where PWR goes and excited about this announcement.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You are officially in the loop.